Yes. So, happy February. It is a new month, and we are kicking off a new series entitled Love Out Loud, going along with this year's theme of Live Out Loud. So, we are basing this month's series on the book All About Love by the incomparable Black feminist author, activist, cultural critic, and Kentucky native, Bell Hooks. Yes, give her some love. I mean, the legacy of her work, I've just begun to tap into, and it is vast. And although this particular book was written about 20 years ago, what she shares, what the vision she calls us forth towards love ethic and justice is needed now more than ever. We see in the world that some folks appear to be scared by this message. Some folks seem to be scared by lifting up Black feminist voices and what that might do to upset the status quo of the patriarchal white supremacy culture that we live in. Like we've seen recently in Florida, folks yielding their power to try to change the narrative to avoid the uncomfortable truth of our country's past. So they are trying to block an African American Studies course that features books by Bell Hooks and many others. And what I know is that the truth will always prevail, and that love cannot be banned. So I'm proud to say that here at Ahava, we will not whitewash history. And we are going to dig into this material this month from that place of allowing love and truth to prevail. So our topic today comes from chapter 3 in the book titled Honesty, Be True to Love. So first we must look at this idea of what is love? And what does it mean to be true to this idea of love? We learn about love mostly from our family of origin, from our upbringing, from the culture and the messages around us. And for many folks, love was not expressed in the most healthy and authentic way. We have a deep desire, it is like the base need of our humanity, to love and be loved, to be seen, to be heard, to be acknowledged. Yet we don't have many examples of what that looks like. So for many of us into adulthood, we must consciously endeavor to learn what love is and how to allow love to be expressed within us and in relationship with others in a healthy way. There's so many mixed messages out there about this idea of love, right? Love is naive or can be seen as weak, like the hopeless romantic, doomed to heartbreak. These stories that we see in movies and novels, people seeking love as validation from someone else to then prove their worth. Or we see and hear stories of love as power or control, or codependent love without boundaries. I feel like we have a lot of examples of what unhealthy love is. And it's time to start empowering the voices and sharing the word of the transformative healing power of love. Understanding that love is the very essence of who we are. Love is that guiding force within each of us that if we allow it, will lead the way. knowing that we are all beautiful, that we are worthy, that we are all love and light, is why we gather to remind each other. It takes a conscious awareness to reject the cultural narratives of love. And I, just like many of you, probably love belting out those, epic love values of, or ballads of songs that are, like, I'm nothing without you, and, all this kind of stuff that it's like, if you stop and look at it, like, well, what am I singing, right? Like, yeah. So we have to be aware, and I'm not saying you can't listen to that music, but just be aware, right? When you sing it, are you feeling that, and are you buying into that belief? Are you noticing, like, oh, that's, maybe I felt that at one time, but that's not what I'm choosing to know love as today? Are we open to allow love to be that transformative power within us? And to be honest with ourselves and with others in order to let love in. Hooks begins this chapter with a quote from John Welwood. When we reveal ourselves and find that this brings healing rather than harm, we make an important discovery. That intimate relationship can provide a sanctuary from the world of facades, a sacred place where we can be ourselves as we are. This kind of unmasking, speaking our truth, sharing our inner struggles, and revealing our raw edges is sacred activity, which allows souls to meet and touch more deeply. So I want to start by revealing to you all something about me. So this week, it's been a rough week. It's been a rough week. Now, those of you who may follow me on Facebook have seen pictures of our wonderful trip to Florida and the Disney World and all the joy, right? And I say that because, right, we can look at things and think we assume and know things about people because we share certain things. But I've been experiencing waves of grief. And I know in New Thought in this teaching that we can have the tendency to only want to focus on and talk about the good for fear that we might manifest something bad by looking at the negative. But that is an oversimplification of our teaching. Really, what the Science of Mind teaching says is that in each and every moment, we have the opportunity to choose again, to have a new thought, to experience a shift in perspective, and to allow love to be the healer and begin anew. If we don't acknowledge the pain, the upset, the grief, we can't truly let go and allow it to be an experience of transformation, because we must reveal in order to heal. Allowing ourselves the space to sit in the discomfort of our feelings and feel them all the way through. Which is why we have in our culture such powerful rituals of memorial services, wakes, sitting Shiva, right? This provides an opportunity to be with our grief that otherwise, in our busy life, we could push away or bypass, thinking that we could somehow not deal with it, think positively, and everything will be okay. But these grief rituals allow us space to acknowledge our loss and to express love. As a collective, we are experiencing so much loss and grief right now, from the pandemic to the wars to gun violence and so much more. Natural disasters at an epic level. Jamie Anderson is attributed with saying this quote that you may be familiar with: grief is really just love. It's all the love you want to give but cannot. It's all the unspent love, all that unspent love gathers up in the corners of your eyes, in the lump of your throat, in that hollow part in your chest. Grief is just love with no place to go. So this past week, on February 1st, it was the 18th anniversary of my dad's death. And my wife Heather and I created a ritual when our daughter was born in order to honor his life and provide an opportunity for her to know him through my stories. And we light a candle by his picture, and we eat his favorite junk food snack, oatmeal cream pies. And so this year at breakfast, when I was sharing that it was the anniversary of his death, Cadence, who's now 7, says, "Oh, can we do a ritual tonight?" Well, usually we do the ritual on his birthday, which is March 3rd, which is why, February to March, just letting you all know, be a little gentle with me, right? So I said, well, we usually do that for his birthday. And she's like, well, can we do it both? And I'm like, sure, baby. And thinking like she just wants an oatmeal cream pie. Well, little did I know, that sweetheart. So we get home that night after a long day, and she brings it up. She remembers. She goes, okay, can we do the ritual now? She gets the candle. She gets everything out. And we sit down, and she looks at me, and she goes, how old were you when your dad died? And I said, I was 25. She goes, wow, that's young. That must have been really hard for you. I'm so sorry. And she gives me a big hug. Her compassion, her emotional intelligence continues to astound me. And it gives me hope. It gives me hope not only for her, but for our world. Because I don't know about you, but the culture I grew up in, we just didn't talk about hard things. We didn't talk about things like illnesses and death and injustice, at least not in a meaningful way. Like it was maybe like a fact that was mentioned, this happened. But there wasn't really the space to talk about it, to process it. And, not to anyone's fault, just that, people didn't have those tools. So what I know is that she is now leading the way and teaching me. So the same day, I watched the live stream of Tyre Nichols' memorial. So for those of you who may not be aware, on January 7th in Memphis, Tennessee, Tyre Nichols, a 29-year-old man, a father to a 4-year-old, a loving son, was stopped by police and immediately pulled from his car and beaten by those 5 officers, while others stood around and did nothing. He was taken to the hospital and several days later died. Tyre was on his way home to have dinner with his family after taking pictures of the sunset, because he was a photographer, an avid skateboarder, what appears to be just a big lover of life, creative energy and spirit, and was just 100 yards from home when the very folks who are sworn to protect him killed him. So like many heartbreaking injustices in this world, it doesn't make sense. Another young black man's life cut too short. So I found myself watching the service, grieving with the families, not only of Tyre, but of those many families who had gathered there who have had a similar experience. And Reverend Al Sharpton presented the eulogy, pointing out the significance of being in Memphis, of being the first day of Black History Month. He made a renewed call for police reform and to continue the work and the legacy of Dr. King. He spoke on the passage of the Hebrew Bible where Joseph's brothers plotted to kill him and leave him in a pit to die. Their plan, Sharpton explained, was to make up a story and cover up his death. Speaking to the police officers who beat Tyree Nichols and left him to die, Al Sharpton said, "I come to Memphis today to tell you the same mistake Joseph's brothers made is the same mistake you've made. You thought you threw Joseph in a pit. You thought you threw Dr. Keem's dream in a pit. But every time you throw something in a pit, God takes the pit and raises it up and changes the whole world." So it is with that sentiment that I invite us now to say his name, to lift his name and his honor. Kyrie Nichols. Kyrie Nichols. Taking a moment to be present to the injustice, the anger, the sadness, and letting it be the fuel to keep climbing the mountaintop of justice. Take a deep breath. Through all of this, I just have to remember to keep breathing, to keep moving my body so that this energy can be expressed in a healthy way and not be stuck. So to those of you who may be feeling a little uncomfortable right now, maybe thinking, oh, this isn't what I came here to hear. I want to hear about love and joy. Well, I say, if not here, then where? Right? We can't keep ignoring the injustice of the world and magically thinking that it's going to heal on its own. Just like any aspect in our lives that needs healing, we must be willing to look at it and do the work. And is not our spiritual community the place where we gather to heal, to reveal wholeness, and acknowledge that love is the answer? To witness and hold space for our humanity and try to make sense of this world. To walk together with our pain, our despair, our grief, anxiety, anger, and to be honest with ourselves and to ask, what would love do now? Love is not a simple word. It is complex with many expressions. There is fierce love, the fierce love of a mama bear protecting her cub. There is vulnerable love of opening to a beloved through pure intimacy. There is love of a friend, of connection, of community. Love has many forms. And so in order to love out loud, we are called to embody the fullness of love and the complexity of love, from bliss to grief, fierce love, and surrender to love. Bell Hooks says, accepting death with love means we embrace the reality of the unexpected, of experiences over which we have no control. Love empowers us to surrender. Oh, that word, surrender. Why is it so hard? To surrender to love, to trust and to know that love will hold us if we allow it. And James Baldwin says, I do not mean to be sentimental about suffering, but people who cannot suffer can never grow up, can never discover who they are. So this week, I encourage you to watch Reverend Al Sharpton's eulogy. You can Google it, it's on YouTube. And then ask yourself, what is love calling you to be, to do, to become, in order to create a world that works for everyone? And today you have the opportunity to stick around for the book study Each Sunday this month, we are looking at this book all about love, and to discuss what is stirring within you as you read these wise words and thought-provoking words of Kentucky's own Bell Hooks. So, even if you didn't sign up, show up. We have chairs set up in the bookstore. If we max out, we will quickly pivot and move into this room and create a bigger circle. So let us breathe and take this into prayer. Opening. With each breath, we open our heart. Grounding ourselves in this now present moment. Leaning into love. Allowing love to be the healer. Allowing this transformative power of this infinite source energy, this vibration of love, to lift us in our grief, to hold us in our pain, to love us through our healing. We will not shy away from the work, for we know we can do hard things. We are called to love, to be an example, a living example of truth, of love in our own lives, in our community, and to make the change that we seek. To become love, to be the highest vibration in the room, wherever we find ourselves. And this doesn't mean that we put on a facade and pretend and act as we think love would. This means we authentically connect with and tap into that raw, authentic emotion of life that is pulsing through us and express the love that we are. Letting go of any ideas, preconceived ideas of what love is or isn't, of how we should or shouldn't grieve, when or where it's appropriate. I stand in the knowing of the wholeness of life. I stand in the knowing of the love of God, of the universe, of spirit, and allow it to flow in, as, and through me. Knowing there is great work to do, I open my heart, I surrender to love, and when my mind feels lost or confused or helpless or hopeless, I breathe in and surrender to love to guide the way. I do not need to know what to do, what to say. I simply allow love and I show up. I show up for myself. I show up for others as love. So it is with gratitude, great gratitude, for the fulfillment of this prayer, that I release this word now into the action of the law that always says, yes, 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 my beloved, I got you. And it is done. It is so. And so it is. Amen.